and welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea or your water and sit back and let's talk some astrology, human design. And I didn't pull an oracle card for the week, and I may just jump over there and do that because it's going to be an interesting week. Good morning, Suzanne. It's good to see you out there. And I see you, Roseanne, even though she hasn't checked in yet and said hello, but I see that she's out there. It's like being a voyeur, right? I can look out there and I can see who's watching. Which cracks me up, even though I can't really take any action with anybody until they actually communicate to me that they're there. Who knows why? I hope everybody had a great weekend. I know the weekend always seems to go by so fast, and mine was no exception. It was here and then it was gone. Good morning, Mimi. And now it's time to get back to business. And so it's Monday, and happy Monday, everybody. And let's talk a little bit about the overview for the week. And I think this is going to be one of those weeks that we have kind of a split going on. It's going to have a Gemini sort of feel. Not really, but it's going to have the two halves of the week. Today, tomorrow, and into Wednesday is the first half, and the second half after that. And I would say that we've got the easier part of the week now in this moment in the first half, and things get a little bit more interesting as we move out of Wednesday and into Thursday and through the weekend. And mainly that's because what happens is right now we have the moon in Aquarius, and it gives a great start to the week. It's high energy, it's kind of eccentric, and it just kind of devil may care, and it has some fun. And then we move into Pisces, which brings up some emotional stuff as we move into the mid part of the week. And then the end of the week, we get into Aries energy and in preparation for the new moon on Sunday. So, and the new moon is going to be highly energetic because at that point in time, we have Michelle Brooks. It's good to see you out there this morning. I hope you had a great weekend. So the week is, like I said, kind of a split, right? The first half of the week, a little calmer and a little more peaceful and a little more kind of, I don't know, to me, it's got a kind of fun flair to it this morning, but it's also got a kind of, good morning, Roseanne. You don't know this, but I already said good morning to you because I could see you out there, but now I'm glad you checked in and said hello. Now I don't feel like so much of a voyeur. And so the first few days here, really good, sort of, maybe some surprises, right? We're still in the last day or two of the gate 51. Remember the gate of shock where the sun is sitting there and bringing us an awakening of sorts, right? And, why not expect the unexpected, right? And the unexpected doesn't always have to be something that is a bad thing, right? It doesn't have to be bad at all. It can be really good. So the two halves of our week, this is the less tricky part of the week, and the second half of the week is going to be the little more tricky part of the week. Michelle says, people have been so tired lately and sick. It's been a weird energy. I would agree. I don't know how long you've been feeling that, Michelle, but it is definitely been, maybe not, I haven't noticed so much that people were sick. But I think you work in the healthcare field, don't you? So you probably would notice that faster than I would. But I have noticed that people have been a lot more tired. It seems like there's been a lot going on, maybe in their dream states. I know in my dream state, there's been a lot going on, a lot of things waking me up in the middle of the night. And I'm like, why am I awake? Then I'm going back to sleep. And then I wake back up and I'm going back to sleep. And so that's kind of been weird. She says it's been about a month for the tiredness. Okay. That would be most likely not from gate 51 because that's only been for the last week. But likely it's because we have these two key areas in the chart that are kind of packed with a lot of energy. One is the energy in Aries. And let me see if I can graphically show you that here, if I can get myself corrected here. So you can see that the planets are all kind of very much, that twists it that way. So the planets are all kind of clustered, right? We still have that bucket pattern going on where we literally only have a couple of things down here holding the handle of the bucket. Where's my pen? There we go. The handle of the bucket down here where we have all the planets up above the horizon. I think Venus is skimmed down here to just below the horizon, but we're still very much powerful bucket energy. And what that really translates into is, somehow this pattern is in your chart somewhere. And it may not be looking just like it does here on this chart, but it's certainly loaded up like that somewhere in your chart. And if you happen to have a lot of planets by birth that are in conjunction or very tightly, close to those same planets, or on the opposite side, or even squaring them, just let me say this: everybody's chart is under pressure. Everybody's. And there's not much you can do about it. I think what it does is really keys into the parts of your life where you really need to work, where there are things that are still stuck, in the old patterns, or stuck in victim energy, or where maybe that you've been sort of, if that pattern where you get stuck and you're beating your head against the brick wall, and no matter what you do, it doesn't change. And so it's really calling us out of our old self and into our new self. So I think it's pretty interesting energy. And I want to point out, let's see, what do I want to point out next? Because so many things going through my head this morning. That's the gift of Aquarius moon, right? So many ideas and so many things going on. Suzanne, you say me, glad I'm not alone. Oh, okay. You're having a lot of issues, right? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that people are literally going, because I'm still doing it. And I know what's going on. And I'm still beating my head against the wall with certain things. Like, let me tell you this. So Saturday morning, I thought, okay, I'm going to get everything together for this class that I want to do on type, strategy, and authority, or the 3 keys to unlocking your human design. And I knew that there has got to be a way to seamlessly be able to get everybody registered, get everybody the link, and make sure that everybody's paid for the class. Do you think I could figure that out? No. But I know there are lots of people out there that do this all the time. So I'm assuming that early this week, I'm going to be inspired to be able to get that done. And that in that moment, my beating my head against that wall was not the right use of my energy. And I think that's what we have to come to, a sort of acceptance of whatever's happening in the moment. And it wasn't happening in that moment. So what could happen in that moment? So instead I went and meditated. That was much more successful, surprisingly, because my Gemini mind is usually running. And I was able to quiet the mind and move into meditation. So I think the lesson I learned with that is when you're trying to force yourself to do something and it isn't happening, there's probably a reason. It's not the right time. The right circumstances haven't come together yet. Or you're going about it in the wrong energy. So I would encourage everybody, wherever it is that you're feeling fatigued, wherever it is that you're tired, or wherever it is that you're feeling like this is just not happening, let go of it for the time being and move on to something else that may be energetically beneficial for you at this moment. You can always go back, right? I can always go back and figure out that problem when my energy and when the energy of the universe is in congruence. But to keep forcing the issue is out of congruence. And we know it because our bodies tell us. We've just kind of gotten out of humanity, not just you or not just me, but humanity has kind of gotten out of the listening to our bodies, because we're listening to what's going on up here. And the head is easily conditioned by what's going on in the environment. And out in our environment is a world that values production. And why can't you get this done? This was due 5 minutes ago. Get it done. And it causes us to push ourselves in a way that isn't correct. It isn't correct for any of us, really, but certainly those of us who have a lot of the motors defined in our human design chart. I'll show you really quickly where the motors are, assuming I can do this correctly. There we go. The motors are these 4: the will center, the sacral, the root, and the emotional center over here. All 4 of those are motors. If you have all of those defined, that means you've got a lot of energy, and that energy can be put to doing nothing, to doing the wrong thing, or to doing the right thing, depending on if you're following what your body's telling you. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. And we'll get more into that as time goes on here too. So something else interesting this morning I was noticing. I had a conversation with a gentleman this weekend via email. And he sent me some very interesting questions. I don't know if he listens to my show in the morning, so I'm not going to mention names, but he asked a question about why it is the gates in the head of the human design chart are not air signs. Because he would have expected, the head being mental, that there would be air signs in the head. But the gates in the head are not air signs. In fact, they're Virgo, they're Aquarius, and so I mean not Aquarius, they're Virgo energies and Taurus energies, which are earth signs. So I found it interesting, right? As my, going through and looking for answers for him, and I couldn't find any real interesting answers. Except to say, literally, this system was kind of channeled to the planet. So, we don't have all the reasons why this is, but it works, right? We don't know, we can't calculate with our mind why it is human design necessarily works this way, but it does. And I'm assuming there's someone out there that may know some of the correct answers to these questions that he was asking. But it did make me start looking at human design. And what I found interesting is, in human design, the new year begins January 22nd or so, when the sun moves to the gate 41. And the gate 41, way down at the bottom, it's in the root center, right? It's down here. So right on this side, right here, 41, this person has the gate 41 undefined, but still, gate 41. Today it's defined because today the moon is at gate 41. So that is called the gate of imagination. And so the new year begins in what we can imagine and what we can create. It doesn't begin on January 1st like we celebrate the calendar new year. Human design new year begins down here. And the astrology new year is always when the sun gets to 0 Aries, which is the first day of spring, usually around March 20th or 21st. So interesting that we have this kind of diverging systems of when the new year begins. But I'm pretty sure that the two astrologies, even traditional astrology at 0 Aries, is a better beginning than January 1st, because at least it's the 0 degrees energy or the 0 degrees of Aries, which is new, bold, take action kind of energy. But I really like the human design new year because it is the gate 41, which says whatever we can imagine, we can create. It gives us a big gateway into creating from our imagination. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because today the moon is sitting at gate 41 right now in this moment. So if we can imagine ourselves in a life where we are in alignment with our energies, that when our bodies are telling us we're tired, we rest. When our bodies are telling us to get out and move, we move. Then what an interesting time we might have when we're physically moving through our world in alignment with our energy. Wow. Not with our heads, right? Not with our heads. Our heads are always going to tell us something different because it depends on who we're with, the environment we're in, the conditioning we've received throughout our lives. And the body itself houses so much more wisdom. Now, to be sure, there is conditioning in the body as well, right? Your body right now seems to be conditioned to do what your mind wants it to do. But it's really meant to have the wisdom to tell you what to do based on how you feel and what your energy signature is right now. And if we have the opportunity to really imagine our lives differently, and that is the case today, then we can choose to go down a new road, right? Make a different choice perhaps, and live, freely, but in alignment with our own personal energies. Now, I know that you're probably thinking, yeah, but I have this job that I have to go to, and I have to be able to be on call or, be awake and ready to do it. I have to get up every morning at 6 a.m. and be ready to leave by 6:30 and blah, 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 right? All of those are conditions that seemingly are frozen kind of boundaries, right, that you have to stick with. But I can guarantee you that it's what your mind is perceiving about that is wholly in your control, right? The perception. What is your perception of having to get up on Monday morning and go to work? I got up this morning and my husband was in a weird mood, and I thought, oh God, here we go, right? He's going to start my day off wrong. I wake up, it's like 40 degrees outside, and he has the front door wide open. And I get up and I'm like, why is it so cold in here? And then I look at the door, I'm like, why do you have the door open? And he starts in on this thing about, he's got to get his bike out to his car, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it just triggered me in the wrong way for no good reason, really. I mean, it made sense, right? You got to have the door open to get your bike out. So I had to pull myself up short because I could have allowed that to start my Monday, my whole week off wrong with this energy of irritation over something, relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. So how many times during the day or during the weekend do these little things happen to us, or, just in our lives where something small happens and it irritates us or it creates a reaction within us. And then our perception is that this is a bad thing, right? Being cold first thing in the morning is not a good thing. And then we take and we run with that and we let it color our entire week or our entire day. And we do it all the time, unconsciously. So I'm going to invite everybody to be conscious, to be able to stop the perception in its path and change the perception. You change the perception, you change the energy, you change your reaction, and everything goes a whole lot smoother, right? He immediately closed the door when I said it's cold in here. And I didn't have to hold on to anger or irritation. So I let it go, but I didn't want to, right? At first, I just wanted to hold on to it. That human part of me wanted to be, but you idiot, you left the door open. But we can let go of those things. We don't have to hold on to them, and we can change our perception in the moment. Change your perception of what Monday morning means to you when it's time to get up and go to work. To me, it would be like, well, hallelujah, this is, another day I get to go do what I do best, which is provide for my family, do the work I love, I hope, or, entertain the idea of growing through my interactions with people in the day. It's all in how you perceive what's going on. Okay, now let's talk about something else that came up into my head. My head. So I'm probably going to turn some astrologers up on their ear this morning. And of course, this isn't necessarily a truth yet. To me, this is like a hypothesis that I want to test, that I want to look at, and I want to play with a little bit. Because I think there are some things, some truths that even astrologers will take and hold on to and believe that that's the way it is because it's always been that way. And so I come along and I ask annoying questions. I did this when I was a kid and I was in church. I was in confirmation and I would ask annoying questions. Finally, the pastor would look at me and he would say, we don't need to ask those kind of questions. It's all about faith. Ugh. Okay, well, now you know why I'm not necessarily in religion anymore, because I would ask annoying questions. So the annoying question that was coming up for me this weekend was, why is the planet Saturn a masculine punisher kind of energy when it rules a feminine sign, Capricorn? Because there's a couple places in the wheel where this happens, but most frequently, like if you take Taurus is a feminine sign. It's ruled by Venus, a feminine planet. We take Gemini, a masculine sign. It's ruled by Mercury, a masculine planet. Cancer is a feminine sign ruled by the feminine moon. And on we go throughout the zodiac. And then you come to annoying places like, why is Virgo ruled by Mercury? Well, Mercury might be a hermaphrodite and plays the role of both female and male energy. Then you get to Libra. And Libra is definitely a masculine sign, but it's also ruled by a feminine planet, Venus. And so we go through the zodiac and you get to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a masculine sign ruled by Jupiter, often thought of as, Zeus, so the male energy. And then you get to Capricorn. And Capricorn energy was going through my head because I was thinking about, what was I thinking about? I was thinking about the fact that Capricorn energy is about boundaries and form. And in relation to the human design chart, I'm going to show you again that this connection from the sacral to the emotional center is masculine, right? That whole channel is the masculine channel. connected to the emotions, while on the feminine side, the sacral is connected to the spleen. So I was thinking about, well, what do those two channels mean? So the masculine energy on the right side that's heading up to the emotional center is the channel of reproduction. Literally, it is the channel where we have sex, and that sex leads to children, right? To babies, to progeny, to carrying on the tribe via reproduction. But it's more than that. It's also about abundance, and it's about providing for the tribe and protection of the tribe, the defense of the tribe. And so that's very masculine energy, but it's leading to the emotional center, which we always think of as being feminine. Interesting, right? So then I looked at the other side and I went, oh, well, that's even more interesting, because that masculine side, the feminine side, begins in the gate of responsibility on the spleen and moves to the gate of nurturing on the sacral. And the feminine energy of the tribe, of the community, is all about following the rules, laying down the laws. It's about making sure that the tribe knows what we value. So it's values, it's laws, it's the rules. And in a way, it's kind of tough love energy at gate 50. And then that tough love energy goes down the line to the sacral, where it meets up with the gate of nurturing, where we take care of, we feed, we clothe, we nurture. And that whole channel of responsibility is also included in the education of the tribe. We educate the tribe in how it is that we work in this culture or in this tribe. How, what do we value? What are our laws and rules? And is willing to, make sure that there is a discipline involved in that. So if I'm listening to those words I'm saying, discipline, rules, laws, values, I went, that's pretty much Capricorn in a nutshell, right? And Capricorn is a feminine sign. So why is it that it's ruled by a masculine planet? Now, I don't have the answers to all of these things yet, except I wonder, because the mythologies of these gods and these goddesses, of course, came up at a time in history where the patriarchy was firmly entrenched, right? That we had passed the matriarchal times, and we were firmly grounded in the patriarchal energies. And so the gods, the important gods, all become masculine. But perhaps Saturn should be Saturnia, and she should be the ruler as a feminine model of discipline. It would match better to the energy that I see coming out of the spleen. And also the energy of the sacral at nurturing. That just turns everything up on its head, because when I think of the nurturing energy, I think of Cancer. Cancer is the opposite sign of Capricorn. It would make sense, right? So I don't know. I'm turning astrology up on its head right now, because I'm asking that annoying question. Why is Saturn masculine, but the ruler of a feminine sign? Someone might say, okay, well, maybe it's about balance and harmony. Well, then that means that the other signs are out of balance then, right? Because if we have a feminine planet ruling a feminine sign, and that's, out of balance, then one or the other is going to have to be masculine. So I just find it interesting. And I can make the case for all is right and perfect as well, because, for example, if we think of the spleen then as being more masculine energy, and it's connected through a feminine channel, then we have some sort of harmony going on here. And if we connect up the masculine energy of sexuality with the emotional center that we think of as being more feminine, then perhaps we have a feminine balance with the masculine. So those two would seem to be in balance, even though they're out of, the natural order that I think of when I think of astrology. So again, right, I am having to question all of these perceptions. Like, why would I buy into this model of astrology that's very clearly not clear, right? Not clear. And Londa says, what if I took to find ways around the rules I don't like? I have an answer for that one too, right? I have an answer for that one, because where did those rules come from, right? Did those rules come from a place of values that were held by the people at the time? Probably. But have our values morphed and changed through history? Yes, they have. And now our new rules, our new values need to be aligned with one another. And that's, the part that I think sometimes humans we get stuck in this old biblical law, which I don't get stuck there myself, but a lot of our rules and regulations and laws are based on the Bible, and also in this country based on our Constitution. But think about that. The Bible is, I don't know how many umpteen thousand years old, but our Constitution is at least 235 years old. And would it be better to rewrite the now in a way that makes sense for us than to keep applying the old laws to a current day? And I think that's the struggle we find ourselves in, right? And we don't need to throw all the laws and all the rules and regulations out, because there are things in those rules and regulations and laws that fit. But I think we can bridge that and come up with a new sense of being in alignment with our rules and being in alignment with our values. It's kind of like when we think of raising our children and we come up with the idea of consequences. So every action has a consequence, right? If you come home late from school, or you come home late when we're expecting you at a certain time, well, then there's going to be a logical consequence to that. And if you get bad grades in school, there's possibly going to be a logical consequence to that. We're going to take away your phone, maybe take away some TV time so that you have more time to study, because obviously you're not applying yourself through study. So I think the feminine gets to write the laws and the rules that are in alignment with our values. Now, if we follow that thread, then that means that our world is really, our country is out of alignment with our laws and with our values. We say on one hand, we value life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, yet what percentage of the population gets to live that way? I guess they all can live that way, with the exception of some economic pressures that get applied through rules and regulations that don't match the value. And when I know there are some of you out there that value your guns and the Second Amendment and all of that, so please don't take what I'm going to say next as a statement about whether we own guns or not. But look at the power of these up and coming voters, these kids who said, we value life. We value safety in our schools. We don't value going to school and wondering when we're all going to get shot, right? And so they walk on Washington, they leave their classes and they demonstrate, they live and breathe and walk their talk in alignment with the value. Do the rest of us? Because I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that one of the things we do say is that we value our children. If we value our children, but now we want to arm teachers, or we want to allow the rifles, the AR, whatever, I don't even know, because I don't like guns necessarily, but I understand. I have family members that own guns that love having their guns, and they're very responsible with them. But is it responsible to have guns that can be so easily accessible, that can be brought into a school and shoot up the schools, shoot up kids, shoot up people in general? So, I think we're under, no, most humans don't have values. Oh, God. And that's even scarier, isn't it? That if we don't have values, what are we doing? So I think a lot of the rest of this year, even from now on, we are really undergoing a values reevaluation and rewriting, rebalancing the defined feminine. I like that. That's Mimi says that. And we're struggling about it. But I think in reality, I think the strongest thing that I can say to everybody about this is that it's time for the feminine to walk her talk, right? We don't need to be relegated to the dark. We're not relegated to the secret, societies that, we can't be powerful. We can. And I think, that there is that ripple running through things. And I'm not saying that we should bash the patriarchy and bash men either. I think what it is that we have to come to a balance of energies. It's obviously balanced in the human design chart. And this is the template for who we are meant to be, right? And, we're not there yet. I mean, we're still working through all the issues of our human designs. But I think that we got to start with some of those sacred cows that we hold on to, like for something just as small as saying Saturn is this masculine god that brings his scythe into everything, demands that we focus and that we have boundaries. And when in reality, his message might be her message, and her message is get in alignment with your values, right? Come into alignment. And everybody can be happy. Everyone can be prosperous. Everyone can have what they need to move through their life with ease and grace. All right, that's my soapbox beginning the week. So where do we go from here? Well, let's see. As we move out of tomorrow, yes, you are poking the big bear here. I know, I do that periodically. I do that, and I don't know. This is my way of walking my talk, right? Is of sharing when I see something out of balance. But I want you all to know that I notice that I'm also out of balance with it. It's not like I'm saying, oh, all of you are out there and you're out of balance and get on the track, right? It's not that at all, because I reel it in. And I think that's a tendency that a lot of the feminine has, is that reeling it in. And what do we do with this? Londa just made an interesting comment. She said, in Israel, they believe it's the women who are going to make the changes to bring peace. I believe that that's the truth. And so how do we do that? Well, we begin by questioning every goddamn rule, regulation, and law out there that is designed to hurt people and not empower people. I'm not, at some point, I would say that we can even start to question the whole of the criminal system, right? The criminal justice system. Is there really anything as justice that means justice? Authenticity, although with clarity. Correct. And I'm not saying that we, don't have to punish criminals or have some form of criminal system. But I think there's a lot of big things that we could be questioning, right? We can go all around our lives with this, right? And I think it does begin with a question. The question is why? And then the next question is, what do I want to do about it? What do I want to do about it? And what I want to do is I just want to keep opening up people's minds to why are we doing the things that we're doing if it's not in alignment with our values. And that may mean because we don't know our values, then we have to define our values. What do we value? And I remember hearing a long time ago that a civilization, I know what else brought this up for me, because over the weekend I got onto the, Netflix. They're great for shows. It was raining, so I had nothing better to do at the moment. So I was watching the show about ancient civilizations, Angkor Wat, Persepolis. What was the other town? Oh, Troy and Ephesus, and the rise and the fall of these civilizations. And what I was noticing is that there seemed to be a pattern in what happened. And it seemed to be that when the leaders of the civilization changed, there was, and I'm not advocating an authoritarian society, please don't get me wrong, that somehow the values didn't get translated along the path. So another leader would come in with different values and begin the process of trying to realign the civilization with their values. And that happens slowly over time. And if enough of this happens, the civilization decays and the civilization falls into its demise. And I got to ask the question, how many of us at this moment are really proud about what's going on here in the United States? Or have we chosen a leader that is leading us to our demise, away from our values? Or is so out of resonance with our values as the people that he can't help but lead us down a wrong road? And what that says to me then is the only ones that can make a decision is the people. We have to empower ourselves to make changes. And maybe that's the sole purpose he's in office, is for us to actually be able to see, wow, we're going to have to empower ourselves. We're going to have to say, these are our values and we need to stick with them. And I was trying to go on to say that the values of a civilization, well, no, the strength of a civilization is only as strong as their weakest links. And the weakest links are often the children, the elderly, or the ill, or the economically downtrodden. When you have a society where, everybody has enough to eat, everybody has a roof over their head, is it a more peaceful society? I would say that it is, because if we go back in time to a more tribal era, before cities and counties got so huge, we had families taking care. We had this nuclear kind of family where I would have extra food and I might take it to my next door neighbor, or my next door neighbor was likely a family member, and we would take care of one another. And I think the only time we see that now, ever, is when something calamitous happens after 9/11, after hurricane, whatever, all the big hurricanes, after major earthquakes, where it brings us together and we take care of one another. Do we really want to relegate that level of care and community and sharing with one another to only calamities? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I don't think that serves us at all. And I think that is where the seeds of our demise have been sown, right? Our demise as a civilization. It's not going to happen tomorrow. And it may never happen if we take some of these ideas that are out there now about how do we care for one another and we do something about it, right? Where we do create community, where we do recall tribes. 45 is waking us up to a house on fire. And wasn't it his own hotel that was on fire this weekend? Right? So one of his hotels, let's see, what does he say? Let's put the rest of this up here. 45 is waking us up to a house on fire. Many more women and veterans are running for office. Teenagers are growing in voice and way showing. Those are such positive things that we can see coming out of what feels like a very negative experience. And Roseanne says, yes, he is provoking change. So I think we see that. Londa says, it's allowing us to really clarify our values. Extraordinary, right? When we think about what it is we value, I think sometimes it's real easy to say, okay, we value our children. We value everybody having enough food. We value a clean environment, clean air, clean water. So why are we allowing this buffoon to tear apart the EPA and roll back laws that were meant to protect our water and our air? Why would that even be out there? I mean, to me, that's probably one of the more striking, idiotic things, is that there are protections in place to make sure that our air and our water is safe for our children, for the life of the planet. And then we do that? We allow that to happen? And I don't know that I have any really great ideas about how we undo what he's done. I really don't, except to take it to the local level, to take it to the state level. I love what I'm seeing sometimes when states like California, Washington, Oregon, we've all just said, not on our coastlines. You're not drilling for oil on our coastlines. This is pristine. This is our safe zone. We have orca, we have seals, we have trout, we have, what are those other things that everybody likes to eat? Salmon. And we value that, right? We value the environment that they have that is clean. And we don't want to mess that up by drilling for oil out here. So the states are putting their foot down, and the states are the representation of the people. If the state is the tribe, we're part of that tribe. So, the other thing that irked me this weekend was and I'm not a proponent necessarily of abortion. I'm really not, but I would say that that's my right to choose whether I want that or not. And now they've made it easier on the federal level. They've rolled back the states need to have to support abortion. So it's like there are things that are being done insidiously from within that are undermining the things that we value. And it's not so much, I don't mean that we value abortion. It's not about the abortion itself. It's about the fact that that's a freedom, a right to choose. And now our president is saying, hey, the states can decide not to fund it, where before it wasn't that way. And I mean, that was maybe a bad example, because I can think of a lot of reasons why we don't fund that. But then on the other hand, you also have the religious organizations like the Catholic Church that are saying, well, we don't believe in birth control, and they're buying up a whole lot of the insurance agencies and medical facilities out there, and then enacting their rules, which are, we're not paying for birth control, and you as a doctor cannot prescribe birth control. Saw it happen myself right here in Bellingham in Washington. And that's not right either. So lots of things out of balance, and we can't do it all. But what we can do is start with, what do we value, and live from our values. Spend your money along the lines of your values, right? If you see look at what happened with that one woman whose name is going to escape me, and she basically made fun of the teenager who was in the Parkland shooting and didn't get approved for 4 colleges, turned him down or something. He was a 4.0 student. He got turned down for colleges, and she made fun of him. And he said, okay, it's game on. And he started pressuring her advertisers to not support her, right? Saying, do we really support someone that's going to bully a kid about his not getting accepted into college? Wow. Dollars, right? Right. In the very quick time, 13, I think it was, companies that were advertisers for her show cut off the funding for her show. And Laura Ingram, thank you, Mimi. Thank you. And that happens because one person stands up and says, this isn't right. He's using his voice in a way that says, here's how you can support this being not something that we value, right? And he said, put pressure on these advertisers to pull out. Do you really want to be associated with someone that's values are this twisted? And many of them said no. And that forced her to have to say an apology. Well, then I say, was it even really an apology? Or was it forced on her? Right? If you're not really sorry about what you said, then it rings hollow. And I would say, advertisers, stay away, because I don't think she really meant it. So we do have some power, people. If a 17-year-old can put that kind of pressure on his school to walk out and march on Washington and say, we've had enough, and then can put pressure on a woman who's making fun of him because he didn't get into colleges that he wanted to get into, then you and I can do it too. We don't have to maybe do it as flamboyantly, but you can do it. You have dollars to spend. You have your voice. And you have your vote. So use them wisely. Use them in alignment with your values. All right. I think I said I was getting off my soapbox. So now I really am, because it's getting late and I have clients today that I have to see. So I am done for now. Remember, today the moon is at gate 41, the gate of imagination. Can we allow our imagination to run free and see what it would look like in a world where we lived in accordance with our values? That's what I'm going to think about all day. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye for now. Love you.